How's it going, everyone? Tommy here. I am a pen tester, and I recently did a Capture the Flag event with Dead Face for 2022 in October, and so we got a lot of requests for one of the challenges I did, which is just an NTLM hash dump crack to get the password for the user. And so I wanted to kind of review that, how I did it, as well as take it to the next level. So instead of just showing the basic cracking of the flag, I wanted to show how this applies to pen testing and how you can use this in real life scenarios. So we're going to show you how to do that. I have right now pulled up my virtual box. I have a Kali machine running. I have an Active Directory server set up. That is a 2019 server running. And then I have a Windows 10 box running as well. Those are all test environments I built. Very simple out of the box, nothing special about them. And I created just a couple of users in Active Directory. And I'm gonna reenact as if we are in a network without any user credentials or any access to anything yet. We're just sitting inside of a network. So when we're first inside of a network, we want to discover what's there. So we would do, to start, we're gonna do a ping scan. So we want to just see what accounts are alive, what's not alive, what we can talk to, what we can't talk to. So I'm sitting currently in a very simple network I created. We're gonna just scan real fast, and we only want things that are open. So only devices that are actually open, that actually tell me they're open, and we're actually gonna look specifically for, we're gonna look for the domain controller. Ooh. Perfect. So I went through real fast. I did a ping scan, and I see that we have a 192.168.0.12 device open. That is our domain controller. If we were to scan the network further, we would find that there is a .13 alive as well, so we can ping that device up as well. That is my Windows box. So just ping it real quick. Cool. So we've discovered that port 88, Kerberos is running on that .12, and then we also have a .13 device. So typically, we're not gonna have access to a domain controller if we get credentials, but right now we need to find credentials. So we might go out and use, maybe LinkedIn. Inside the network, maybe we'll navigate to some printers that have default configurations and no logins. So you just jump in, you look at the address book and contact book, and you can find some usernames. You can find those usernames, like I said, on LinkedIn or anywhere, just on social media in general, and you'll build a word list, or a user list, I'm sorry. So you go to this user's text. I created this user list already, and I threw a couple names. I have M. Myers, J. Voorhees, C. Ray, John Doe, F. Kruger. These names, maybe you know the first and last, you don't know the name syntax, so you might have, full Freddy Krueger. You might do the F. Kruger. You could just do Freddy.k or Freddy K. There's a bunch of different ways you can find usernames, the different syntaxes they might be. So you just want to make the best guess of what it's going to be. Obviously, you might try this several times. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a password attack where we know a password, or we think we know a password, and we want to attack those users and see if we can find if any of them log in anywhere. So in this case, I know that users all have access to every Windows machine, typically just a normal Windows machine. So that .13, we know that users can usually authenticate to those. So we're going to test authentication for these users against that, not the server, because in a good environment, users shouldn't have access to the server. So how do we do this test, this password test? So we're going to use a tool called crackkmap. So type in crackkmapexec. Okay, and we're going to do an SMB attack because we're throwing the username and password at an SMB port, and we want to see if we can validate. So we're going to throw it at our device. So we're saying, hey, crackkmap, we're attacking this .13 box. We're going to use our usernames. Okay, we want to use a user list. That's where this is a little bit different. We want to use that user list versus a single name. We're using passwords later. So I'm sorry, a single password, but we're using that specific username. So we would say home. This is a standard loadout box that I put together, so it's gonna be really simple. Home Kali desktop. And we're using users.txt. We want every user in this to be tested for this password, and we're gonna say the password. Sometimes you might go and say, summer 2022. Has that worked before? Yes. Yes, it has. We're going to say the domain, and in this case, because this was for deadface, the domain was spun up as deadface.local, and we're just going to throw at this network just like this. We just want to say, hey, can any of these users with the password summer 2022 authenticate? This is trying each login once, and we're not doing it a different way because if you're going to throw it against all devices in this network and they have a 3 failure lockout, you're going to lock out a whole bunch of accounts. We don't want to do that. We're just going to throw this password against each user once at this PC. So we'll go, and all red dots, or all red lines. That means that none of these guys can log into the PC called Super Spooky. So we'll try a couple times, I like to 2 or 3 times for every 30 minutes. It just depends what you think the policy is, or if you're able to enumerate a password policy ahead of time. In this case, I don't know what the password policy is. I do, but in this situation, we're gonna just go with the actual password. Now, there's no way you're gonna actually be able to guess this password, but this is just a password that's set up, and I wanted to kind of give that feel again, so that summer 2022 might actually work. In this case, this is gonna work. It's going to work. And it didn't work the first time, so let me double check my password. Expand this open real quick. And, because I can't spell dreams, one haunting your dream found. So, right away we see a new message here, pwned. We see a green check mark and pwned. You're not always gonna see that pwned. If it's not pwned there, just a green check mark, then you may or may not have access there, and you want to kind of dig into that further. When you see that pwned, you know you definitely have access. So you can test it again, and you can just see maybe what they have abilities to do. So we see Fred Krueger has access with that password. So we're gonna change that username to Fred Krueger. If you run it again, you'll just see the same thing. Pwned. Cool. Now you can do certain things with crackkmap. You could list out the shares. And there we go. We see we have read-write access to the shares at admin. Cool. We could see if we have ability to access the SAM. And we do. So right now we see several users on this machine cached. These are local users, and so we want to attack these. These are really good because a lot of times companies will use the same local admin with the same password across multiple computers. So we see this account, okay, we want to secret dump this. So we want to dump all of these out to a file. So we're going to use secret dump. We're going to use deadface.local, the username, if I can write names right, the username being Fred Krueger, and give the password, one haunting your dreams, don't mess it up that time. Cool, at 192.168.0.15. That's going to do it. I like to make it really clean, and we're just going to throw it into a file because we know we need to crack this. So put the right pathway, desktop, and we're going to call it hashes.txt. All right, let's run. And it's running, and boom, it's done. So if we open up this hashes.txt, we'll zoom in a little bit. I'm actually going to make this bigger so you can see a little better. We're going to see that we dumped the registry data that we were looking for, and we can get rid of a lot of this. We don't want any of this. We don't want any of this. We just want these specifically right here. Now, I already see a juicy one right here, and that's this IT admin. That 1001 means it's definitely going to be more than likely enabled. This default admin and guest, these are usually disabled. Most of them are disabled. We're going to definitely want to get that IT admin and see if we can crack it. So we'll save this file. Excellent. So what we need to do is we need to obviously we need to crack it. So we're going to use hashcat. Okay, we're going to use a module of 1,000. Alright, 1,000. We're going to choose the file as home Cali desktop hashes.txt. And then we're going to use choose a word list. Now, Kali has a lot of default word lists. In this scenario, I don't want this video to take 18 million hours, so I made a quick, easy word list with one password in it, and it's the password we need. Makes life really easy. So we're going to say we need it to use Oh, didn't mean to do that. Desktop, we're gonna use that word lists. Cool. So what we were saying is hashcat, use module 1000 for NTLM, use the hashes text for the hashes, and use word lists for the word list. Now, one thing it's going to do, if it solves it, more than likely it's going to save it out to it's a file inside of hashcat that you have to go look. We're just going to tell it to show so we can see if it solves anything, because we know it's going to solve. And immediately it gives us a solve. So right here it says FD 818 solves for pizza 1 2 3 4, and hashes. We pull it up. Of course, that's going to be our IT admin. So now we have a username and password. We now know that we have IT admin and our password is pizza. So we may want to run a test real quick just to always double check. So we're going to run crackmap against this. We're going to do local auth, which is simple loc. I still have the -d in there for domain because I'm a genius. We're going to do a local check to see if IT admin has access, just because why not? I always like to make sure that password's correct, and that password is correct. We do see against 1.3 that IT admin pizza 1 2 3 4 is correct. I want to see, do I have access to the domain now? We know that that domain controller is .12, so we're going to run it the same thing, a local test, and we're going to run against the domain controller, and boom, we have pwned. We now have user credentials that has privileges over the domain controller. And we talked about before, you can do that -sam if you wanted to see, so you could do a -sam, see if we get the same dump. And we do. So this means that we have elevated privileges on that device. We can see the registry. That could be a configuration issue, or they are a domain administrator, or, well, in this case, a local administrator. But nonetheless, we now know that we have access to the server. So if we want to access the server, we can use wmi-exec to actually gain access to that server. So we're saying, hey, I want to access that server. So what we'll do is put IT admin at 192.168.0.12. We're saying, hey, we want to connect to this. We're going to click enter, and we immediately see a C, the C line, right? That's the main drive of the server. We're going to just do a nice blur real quick, and we have access. So we are on the server now. So now we have administratively, with ever actually going into an actual machine, physically typing into a machine, we've gained access to the server. We can do a lot of things here. So having that account isn't necessarily persistence, right? Because that means that someone might have, or may change the password, change the user on us. It could be tomorrow's password reset day. We want to add our own user for persistence. So we're gonna use some basic, just old school system admin commands. We're gonna say net users domain. See how many users are on the domain, and there we get all the users on the domain. We see IT admin. Cool. Well, we want to know what kind of groups are there. How do I get into be an administrator? Like, how do I make my own user, and how do I add them to the administrator group? So I'm gonna say net groups domain, and I see all the groups that are on the security groups that are on the Active Directory, and I see two really interesting ones: domain admins, and I also see RDP users. So RDP users tells me that I can remote desktop somewhere. So what I want to do is I'm going to add a user. So I'm going to say net users. I can type add. And we're going to add hacker. Give them a password of password 1 2 3 4 because we're adding awesome credentials. And I'll say domain. All right, it says that that user was added. Again, we use net users / add username password / domain. Well, we can just double check real quick. And we see right there, there's a user now called hacker, but that's just a normal user account. We want to give that user account a higher level of privileges. So what we'll do, say net groups domain admins, add, and what we'll want to do is add our user. So add hacker, so I can think. All right, and we also want to do that RDP one, right? We want to say, let's add that first RDP. RDP users, add hacker to domain. Oh, is it RDP? Oh, too many spaces. There we go. Awesome. So now let's just double check. We want to make sure that we actually added all of our members to these groups, right? We want to make sure that we gave them the right permissions we want. So what we want to do, domain. So we'll say netgroups RDP users, domain, double spaced again. Now we see hacker is a member of the RDP group. We'll do the same for domain users. And we now see that we are also a domain administrator, and we can go back and test this, right? We can open a new tab real fast. We can do our crackkmapexec, SMB 192.168.0.12. We'll say username of hacker. We'll say password is password 1234. Domain is database.local. Let's test. Do we have access? We have access. We know that we are now a domain administrator on that machine. We can do the same to 13 because we're obviously domain admin. We can access any machine in this network. We have persistence now. We can log in, hopefully undetected if they haven't seen that. But I want to take it a next step further. I want to put files on. Maybe I want to take files off. So let's do this. Let's see if they have anything juicy on their computer. Maybe he has some secrets I want. Maybe RDP isn't open and we want to get some stuff. So we would go, right into users. What's in users? We see a couple of users. Let's check into administrators, see if they have any password files or anything. Administrator. Cool. Well, let's list what's in there. Normal stuff, nothing different. We're going to go to desktop because I hit a nice gem there, because why not? Do dir again, we're going to see a cool secret.txt.txt. What is that? I don't know. Let's get it. So say get secret.txt.txt. Awesome. We've just downloaded that file to our system. If we open our, and there you go. All the super secrets. We were able to download files directly from that server. We can also obviously put files to that server if we want to. But the last cool thing that we can do, right, is we know that we're not RDP. Can we RDP to that server? Well, let's find out. We're going to use a tool called free xrdp free RDP. I'm having a day. So we're saying xfree RDP. We want to go /username. We'll say hacker /p. We'll say password 1234, and then we're going to /v. We're going to say that we're going to 192.168.0.12, that server. We want to connect to that server. We're going to hit enter. May it prompt you for some things. Just say yes or no if it does. And we've just RDP'd and gained full desktop access to the server. So now we're on the server as a user. So we can pull up Active Directory users. And we can manipulate and change whatever we want here. Right? We can do whatever we want. Here we are. IT admin's also a user here. They're also a user in local groups. But that's kind of a really big overview of a single level of attack that I've used personally before in pen tests. It's worked pretty well. That password attack has worked. People like to use really bad passwords. If you don't have that password policy, you can use an enum for Linux if it works. I actually haven't tested this environment. Test it real quick, so why not? So we use enum for Linux, use -tech for help if you want to get anything. So if you want, I don't know, maybe you want to get all the users of this environment, you can scroll through and say, oh, I want to get user list and see if it works or not for you. -u, and then just say this 68.0.12. You could do that, and this one says no. I got an error using my enum for Linux. So scroll through and find out one. There you go. So, and this one doesn't work. You need better permissions to do it. I don't have permissions, I can't do it. So sometimes environments don't. I've had environments where I just run that anonymously and they don't have any protections at all, and I'm able to get the password policy. But that's the way we attack. So we're in the network and we don't have credentials. We're not catching credentials from element R. We can't do any relay attacks, those type of attacks. This is just one version of those attacks you can do as well, where you get that username from, like I said, printers online. You build a user list and you throw some passwords. And last time I had the successful, it took me a couple hours. I ran a password attempt 2 every 30 minutes. I would do it with a specific account first to just test out the lockout policy, and then go from there. And I would do that, and eventually, after about 3 hours, I was able to get a successful account with a password, and I had access. And then from there, I did curve roasting. But I also did, just as you saw, I found a PC, I scanned the entire network of that user. So if you do have valid credentials, you can scan the entire network using the CIDR mask and find out where they have access, and you can just dump using secrets dump and get all of those cache credentials down and crack on those passwords and get access to other locations. And hopefully you get a domain administrator or a local administrator that's in multiple places, and you can escalate your task. You can laterally move through the network and find hopefully that crown jewel and take advantage. So if you like this type of stuff, I'm new to filming. This is my new idea. I want to go through and showing some of these techniques we use in pen testing. If you like this stuff, subscribe, follow me. I have socials in the link below, and just come back for the next video. I hope to have a lot more. Thanks.